Hello, and welcome to Max Level Games.
How are you doing, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's installment of the Max Level Games podcast. I am your host for this week, James Walters. Usually there's someone else with me, but unfortunately he could not be here for personal reasons. So you're stuck with me, aren't you so lucky? For those of you who don't know, this is a weekly, minus maybe a day or so, podcast where we sit here for about an hour, usually more, usually less, we'll see. And we talk about films, games, comics, anything and all things. It's worth mentioning this is a bit of a mature podcast as well. You're likely to hear some bad words. We don't sugarcoat things here unless those things are donuts, so you've been warned. First topic of the day is games we've played, typically. So this week I've had quite a very full week of games. I've gotten through four games, that's right, 4 games. I've actually finished them to completion. Not like the completionist completion where I do anything and everything, obviously, but I've done everything. I've finished the story, as it were. The first one is quite a short one. It's Twisted Metal again. I finished that off from last week. Or the week before, I forget which. Yeah, I still think it's great, to be honest. It's one of those games that I was very surprised by. I didn't think I'd actually like it, because it's race cars. It's sort of like a deathmatch-esque style playing, but once you get into it and you sort of fight against the awkward controls, which you can change, but, you know, I kind of got used to them. It is actually pretty fun as well. Very chaotic as well. And I still stand by what I said. That boss fight with Dollface is an absolute nightmare. No one can fight that. Not even on the hard setting. I was on the standard setting, which is like actually the easiest setting there is because there's no easy mode. But even then, it was a fucking nightmare. Jesus. So even the last boss fight with Sweet Tooth wasn't that bad. It was annoying in parts, but then at the same time, the game's supposed to be not easy. So yeah, it's a good game. I really want to see more from this franchise. Personally, I'm going back now and playing the last game before that, which is Twisted Metal Black. But as far as I'm aware, the guy who makes it, or who has made them before, David Jaffe, he last worked on Drawn to Death, which is a shooting thing for the PlayStation. Whether he's planning to do another one, he's actually said is entirely in the hands of Sony, so, because I believe they have the rights to it, so we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, this one on the PS3 and I think 360 is actually really good. I'd say give it a go. Even if you're not a fan, you might actually enjoy it because it is pretty chaotic. The next one is one that everyone can finally shut the fuck up about. Yes, I finished Resident Evil 4. The game that most people would deem, or a lot of people would deem like one of the greatest games of all time, or especially at least one of the best Resident Evil games of all time. I've finally finished it. Okay, it's done. It is finally done. And no matter what Liam said last week, I was actually quite close to finishing it. Where I was, I just had to get through those fucking regenerating things, whatever they were, whatever you call them. But goddamn, they were annoying. It's Resident Evil, so if you're used to that kind of gameplay format from 4, 5, and 6, then you know what to get into. But it's obviously where the mechanics were at its earliest, so everything does feel quite tank-like. But I can see why people give this such a high praise, especially in terms. I would not say it is one of the greatest games of all time. I will throw that out there right now. But I do see why people say this is arguably the best Resident Evil game. I do see why people kind of have that opinion of it, because it was really good. Actually, you can go suck a dick though. That whole fucking escort mission thing, no, that is entirely useless. If there was an option in the game to just put it in one single bin and have her stay there for the entire game, I would have happily done that. Half the time she died because I accidentally shot her, so yeah, no. Resident Evil 4, Ashley, nah, I'm alright, thanks. But keeping in line with Resident Evil, because I thought, you know, these are those games that I can sort of get through quickly, I went to the next one in the series, which is Resident Evil 5, one that a lot of people have very divisive opinions on. It played more with the mechanics of 4. It's basically the exact same engine, I think, just a bit more polished. But it was also very vaguely racist, I suppose. You could consider it that way. You know, it was very dull. in terms of actual like content, I feel like it's still like it's still a decent game altogether. But in terms of it's basically four, but in Spain or Africa rather. It's all it is. So if you liked 4, you may or may not like 5, because the whole, with one thing, you have a co-op companion, so that's literally the only thing I used the co-op companion for in the AI was to carry the shit I didn't want to carry, or hold the extra bits of ammo and bombs and such things. She still ran out of ammo all the time. I gave her ammo, she still ran out of it. So she ended up using the stun baton all the entire time. She was stood there. We're fighting a giant crab of all things on an elevator, and she's trying to whack at it with a stun baton while I'm taking out the legs. And I'm like, is there a wonder you keep dying? Is there a wonder? No, there isn't. Absolute nightmare. And the whole inventory management thing, which was altered from 4, is annoying too. For those of you who don't know, 4 had like a briefcase setting where you sort of had to manipulate things around and fit as much in the briefcase as you could, which you could upgrade throughout the game to add more things, but you still had to watch the spaces you had in terms of items and stuff. Resident Evil 5 was like, yeah, we're gonna do something similar, but how about an egg takes up the exact same space as a rifle? That sound good? Good. No, it wasn't good. You sort of have like a 3x3 grid. That's all inventory space you get. You don't even like get to upgrade throughout the game either, which is annoying. If you want to upgrade your armor or have like a bodysuit on to lessen melee damage or gun damage, that takes up a slot in your armor, which is a whole next level of fucking paradox. So things like that are where this sort of game falls down. But otherwise, I'd say it's just another sort of that style of gameplay. It is another one of those, which, as I say, you like 4, you may like 5. It's entirely down to you guys. And the last one is something very, very lighthearted, obviously. I've said for a longest time that although they're not meant for me, I do like the Lego games because I find them to be quite fun and relaxed. Because obviously they're for children. They have their very own sort of brand of humour as well. Excuse me. So it's Lego Jurassic World, this one, which is quite fitting since the new film has not long since been out. I have seen it. It's pretty good, I think. So the Jurassic World game for Lego, I feel like the difficult thing with Lego games in general is that they are sort of all the same. You cannot deny that you've played one, you've kind of played them all. It's just they slap a different coat of paint on it, or add some new characters, or in this case, add dinosaurs. And I will give it this though: the dinosaurs in this game actually felt big and dinosaur-like. You try and you warp into playing as a Brachiosaurus, and the controls are very slow and moving around because obviously it's fucking huge. You play as like a raptor, you sort of get around a lot quicker, it's a lot smaller. Play as a T-Rex, everything runs away from you, as they should. But other than that, everything is just sort of the cut and paste formula for Lego games. Being someone who's played these games since the Star Wars days, back in like the PS2, they've made some big innovations in terms of their formula of things, but not very often. So the first time you actually the first time they actually spoke rather than mumbled and such was the Lego Batman 2, which was very important for like storytelling and stuff, especially because the Lego Batman games are their own story. They're not like inspired by anything. That's where they gave them voices in the and in open world too as well. I forgot about that. In the first Lego Marvel Superheroes game, they introduced like the big characters, because like the Hulk and stuff. So I'm pretty sure everything prior to that was just like, say like Bane, who you'd see as a big character, he'd just be a normal sized character who was just very strong. Whereas you give the big Lego characters like the Hulk, who are obviously strong, more of a big appearance. And then obviously they have dinosaurs. I don't know what more to say about it really. If you've played one Lego game, you've played them all. But I think with the new film being out, it would kind of be fun to go back and visit this Lego game with them all. There are still bugs, naturally, but otherwise, yeah, I'd say it's a Lego game. Yeah. But that's it for games played. Obviously, as I say, it's just me this week, so I can't really gauge what Liam's been playing, but I can probably take a guess. It's probably Call of Duty or probably Fallout. So, As always, the next part of the podcast is news. There's been a lot of news this week. More so gaming news and film news, obviously. But the film news is sort of robust, almost. There's a few things to mention here. First of all, there was a convention recently in Europe, in Barcelona specifically, called Cine Europe, which is like a big film or upcoming film convention. And Disney were there with Marvel and Avengers 4. They had their own screen where they showed very, very fucking lucky customers to the convention some clips from Avengers 4. It was so secretive that on the way into the screening, they were not allowed to have like phones or tablets of any kind because they wanted nothing to get out from this film. And even more so than that, the people who've come out and have like wanted to share things about Avengers 4, they're being very tight-lipped too, because as you can imagine, Avengers and Marvel are a very big franchise for Disney, so if anything gets out prior to them wanting to get out, they're not going to be best pleased. So even the people who went to see it, they've released sort of what the film's called, because as you guys know, Avengers 4 right now, we don't know what it's called. It's just called Avengers 4. But the guys who went to see these clips have said that it is called Avengers FH. And that's it. They're not going any further than that, as I say, because I imagine if they did, they'd get sued to hell and back, potentially, for Disney. If they could do that, which they'd certainly try. So yeah, that's what we know so far. Avengers FH. So a lot of people have been speculating like Final Hour, Fallen Heroes, I don't know, For Honor, I guess. I don't know. See, this is what I mean. It's very vague. It's at this point, until we get the official reveal, which we're not going to get for a while, I don't believe. It is just a case of here's something and enjoy, I guess. So, but yeah, that's nice. That's something to speculate on for a while we wait an entire, well, not so much in a year at this point. It's just under a year to actually see what happens after Infinity War. Keeping on the Disney train though. This is a bit of a two-part story. It was updated today, but I will give you guys sort of like the background from the last couple of days. So as you guys know, Disney want to buy Fox, 21st Century Fox, like the film and division and television division, all these kind of things. But they put out a bid, which was originally $52.4 billion in stocks. That's not cash, that's stocks. So as you guys, if their stocks suddenly go down, that money ain't worth jack to Fox. So it's like, could you give us a bit more than that? It's not really the greatest incentive. They accepted like the first time, but it's not. It's even other like analytics out there were looking at and thinking that's a bit low, isn't it? It's a bit. You want to offer Fox a bit more than that, surely. But then Comcast came out of the works and they counterbid Disney with $65 billion in cash. So, stocks may rise and fall, but cash is cash. Which, unless the value of the dollar went down significantly, then it's not going to do much. But yeah, so Disney were a bit like, oh god, we've had a bit of competition here for this company. See, if Fox, the thing to bear in mind is Fox technically accepted Disney's bid. It's just a case of someone came in with another bid and they were going to like wait a bit longer to decide upon the two. If Fox had gone in favor of Comcast's bid, Disney would have had like 5 days just to scrounge up the cash or talk to investors to be like, give us more so we can buy this company. Which the update of the story is they did. They went back. They've spoken to whoever they need to, and now the deal now is what they're going to give to Fox is $71.3 billion, which is sort of like a stocks and cash thing. It's not obviously. I don't think it's $71.3 billion cash and $71.3 billion stocks. It's just like a so much of so sort of thing. I don't think the specifics are out there yet. But as well as that, they've also offered to pay Fox's debts. They'll pay off the debts that Fox has. And obviously, as I say, Fox have accepted the previous bid. They've accepted this bid as well. I think not knowing, all there is to know about stocks and business and such, I don't know if the July 10th date where Fox would make a decision on these things still stands. But as I say, they like Disney's new bid essentially. So for the most part, unless Comcast comes back and be like $90 billion cash, then I think we're safe to say Disney is going to buy Fox within the next year or so. But that's how that story is going on right now. There's probably still more to come, but that's where we are right now. The next story is a bit of a tantalizing one for all the Game of Thrones fans out there, or a bit of a sad one as well, depending on how you look at it. Emilia Clarke, who plays Daenerys Targaryen, she is quite active on like Instagram and stuff in terms of social media, and she recently posted on there saying that she's finished. She's now finished on Game of Thrones. She's done all she needs to do in terms of shooting and various other bits like post-production. She said a nice farewell as well on Instagram. So there, she's done. And as well as that, she mentioned last month about Daenerys' final moments on screen, and the quote is, "It fucked me up." So expect interesting things from season 9. 9? Are we on 9? I think we're on 9. But yeah, that's not coming until like next year anyway. So there's a bit more of a bit more information to bide people over until season 9 comes out, whenever it comes out. So the next piece is more about the Joker film, and I don't mean the Jared Leto one that he's trying to get off the ground. I mean the other one made by Todd Phillips and starring Joaquin Phoenix of all people. The origin film, in fact. They are set to film this year in September in New York City, because it's obviously the most Gotham-esque city we're going to get in anywhere, I believe. They're going to start filming then, and some rumours surrounding who's going to be in the film. Robert De Niro, of all people, as a supporting character. I believe that they're looking at the Killing Joke sort of origins. They could be looking at other things as well, but there's I think they're taking elements of that, as well as I think it's called like the One Who Laughs story arc from like even earlier Joker origins. That's how they're setting it up. So De Niro is pretty famous for playing like mafia characters, I believe. So he could potentially be the mafia characters from the Killing Jokes storyline, if you've read that comic book. Other than that, we have no ideas just yet. So I'm quite intrigued to see where they're going to go with this film, mainly because the Joker's a character. I always thought, aside from the Killing Joke, it was kind of nice that he didn't have an origin, because it sort of left people to create their own idea of what sent this man so far off the edge that he created a new edge to then fall off of, in terms of how fucked up he really is. So, we'll see. But that's all we're going to get from that for now. As I say, they start filming in September. I doubt we'll see it until maybe late next year. I don't know how well DC are going to do with their films, because right now the films are sort of all over the place. We've got this in the works. There's the Jared Leto Joker film that he wants to make. Aquaman comes out at the end of this year. I bet no one knew that. That's supposed to come out this year. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Still not seen Justice League. Probably not gonna lie. The next bit is a bit more lighthearted. Rick and Morty. As you guys may know, back in May, they were renewed for 70 more episodes. So for those who were worried that the last season we got is going to be the last season we're going to get, no, it's fine. We're going to get more. 70 more episodes, in fact. And Justin Roiland, who is the co-creator, I've got the quote in front of me here on Instagram, he's spoken out about these 70 more episodes and the big bundle renewal they've been given, because with such a big order, they can get things out faster. So we may actually see the next season of Rick and Morty very soon. Maybe early next year, I'd still imagine. But either way, so he said, quote, "We want the episodes to stay good, but we do also want to try to turn them around a little quicker now that we have the big order. I think it gives us the ability to be faster." So yeah, because they've been given such a big renewal for more episodes of Rick and Morty, because it is really popular, Rick and Morty, they'll probably get it out a bit quicker than they did before, because as you guys probably remember, the gap between 2 and 3 felt like a lifetime. So the next one shouldn't be as long, but we'll see about that. And the last bit of news in terms of film and television is a bit of an interesting one. For all the Walking Dead fans out there, as we already previously covered, end of season 9, Andrew Lincoln is bowing out as Rick Grimes. How he's going to do that, we still have no idea. But in terms of other casting news, John Bernthal, who played Shane, is coming back into season 9. If you've seen the show, you're a bit like, what? No, he died. He definitely died. Yeah, he's dead. He's only come back for an episode so far. That's what the news says. He's only come back for an episode, and it's probably going to be either like a flashback thing or like a hallucination, because a lot of people speculate that Rick is going to die. That's how they're going to get rid of Rick Grimes. So it would make sense for it to be like a hallucination, flashback kind of thing if he's on like a deathbed, or if he's, say he's been attacked and he's dying, and he sees Shane along with Laurie and all this kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes. It's just the first time I saw that headline, I was like, that makes no sense. How are they going to bring back a dead man? Well, apart from the obvious way, but he already did that and then died again. So yeah, but then as I say, reading into it, it is just for one episode, so it could be any episode. We'll see. As I say, my speculation is end of the season, depending on what's going to happen with Rick. We'll find out. But yeah, so Walking Dead fans, as we know, John Berthel's coming back. Rick's going to leave. We'll see. We'll see how all this goes. But now we're going to move on to the next portion, and the last portion for this week's episode. As I say, it's just me, so it's a bit of a shorter one. A whole lot of gaming news. A whole lot. As we know, we had E3 last week. And weekend before last. And we talked about it on the podcast last week. But there's obviously still more news going on, so we'll see. We'll see what we have. The first bit is, as you guys, if you watched along with the live streams, you'll know that I was sort of waiting for the Rocksteady Superman announcement that was supposed to be teased to be announced at some point. Like, it was originally said during the Microsoft conference, and I was like, well, maybe he'll do it during, like, the something conference, or they'll just throw out a trailer like other people have that didn't go to conferences and stuff. So, we'll see. Ultimately, nothing came. Rocksteady were not there with Superman. If Superman even does actually exist, we still don't know. It's all rumors and speculation. There is no very feasible evidence, in my opinion. Everything is still just up in the air right now with Rocksteady, which, as I say, is a shame, because they're a great developer, so we want to know what they're doing next. But they have come out on Twitter not long after E3 finished and said why they weren't there, and it's basically because they had nothing to show. So, you can't force them to be there and show off older stuff, because everyone's like, well, we've already seen that. So if they've got nothing new to show, then obviously they shouldn't have been there. But they did mention that they are working on something, and as soon as it's ready to show, they will show it, and they look forward to everyone's sort of reaction to it. So just wait, really. I know it sucks. We're gamers, we're film fanatics. We don't like waiting for things, but unfortunately we have to do it. So just wait. But speaking of waiting, though, Anthem is a big game coming out next year, February 22nd. And if you're looking forward to it, and depending on your opinion on pre-ordering games and stuff, you can actually get a demo for it. If you pre-order Anthem, you will get a demo of Anthem, which is becoming a bit of a thing recently, to have demos of games as a pre-order bonus. But obviously it's not sort of like straight away. They'll release it after a time. They'll say, if you pre-order it from this point on, you will get a demo to play there and then. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know how much of it. They may even just give you the demo from E3 itself that we saw over the conferences and stuff. They may show you that and give you that to play. So we'll wait on that. As I say, with pre-ordering things, I personally don't have a problem with pre-ordering things. I personally do it quite often. In fact, I have around somewhere receipts for 3 games to pre-order. The first is Spider-Man, which comes out in September. The second is Spyro, and the third is the new Pokemon game. So I personally have no problem with pre-ordering things, because a lot of people's concerns is that, you're sort of giving them the money before you've even got the game, which, yeah, I can see the point in that. But then all the places I've pre-ordered from, you don't have to pay them the full amount straight away. You can if you so wish to, but you don't have to. So it's sort of, if you can only put down the minimum deposit, that way you're not missing out on much. Because most places, especially in the UK, the minimum deposit for a game is like £3 to £5. Or if you get like the special versions in like a game or something like that, it's like a tenner. So that's a bit more incentive to pick it up. But if you decide you don't want it in the end, you can just cancel it and get that money back. At the end of the day, it's not that much in terms of like how much you're going to spend on the full game itself when it comes down to it. You're not paying that much to pre-order it, so. But that's just my opinion on the matter. If anyone has any different, feel free to share it with me and we'll discuss that. The next piece of news is about another big upcoming game that everyone's looking forward to, and that's The Last of Us 2. Now, we saw a lot of footage at E3. They showed off a very lengthy demo of gameplay, of all things, which no one expected, personally, myself included. And they've said that the things we witnessed in the trailer, like, it was like one moment they were at a party and the next Ellie was off killing some folks. That's how the game is actually going to play, kind of. There's like 2 timelines throughout the entire game. Now, whether they like have one that's a gameplay thing or there's a cinematic like they had in the E3 demo, we don't know. But all we know is that it's telling the story, telling Ellie's story, but from 2 different points and calling back and forth between the 2. We'll see how that goes as like a storytelling thing, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I trust Naughty Dog. I think a lot of people trust Naughty Dog as a developer. We'll see how they handle this. Speaking of trusted developers, though, or at least they have been more recently, Capcom and Resident Evil 2, the remake. It has some pre-order bonuses. If you pre-order it on like the PlayStation Store, especially, it has a list of things you'll get. They're all just like cosmetics, to be perfectly honest. It's all like costumes for Leon and Claire, because as we've said, Claire is actually a second campaign character to play as. There's also a few weapons too to get. Nothing that's going to break the game, obviously. I hope at least, but just a few extra things for people to have, I guess. And there's been a few more details on the game from the developers. They've come out and said a few more things. For people who have played the original Resident Evil 2 and probably remember it fondly, those who probably played it for hours and days on end and know everything that's going to happen in the game, you're in for a surprise, because they're going to change a lot of things. So if, say, there's like a corner you go around and you're like, oh, such a monster's going to pop around here a minute, I'll prepare for that. They're not going to do that. They're not going to appear. Things like, I've seen some footage where a bunch of zombies break through windows and start grabbing at you. I think they may have that in, but not in the same places. The whole gist of it is a remake in the most loose and yet pure sense. They're keeping the story as is. They're keeping the characters as they are. They're updating everything in terms of like mechanically and how you play. But some of the beats in the game itself will alter. So it just keeps everyone in the same sort of new perspective when coming to play into it, which I think is really good. I've never played the second one. I don't really want to, because, as I say, I can't stand the old mechanics of the games. From 4 onwards, I'm happy to play them because I can manage those mechanics. The old tanks and fixed camera things, I'm okay. You know, I'm not going to say they're awful games, but I just don't like them, and that's again entirely my opinion. If you guys disagree, that's fine. As well as that, you'll notice, if you watch the trailer, you'll notice that the game looks really good, like graphically wise, and that's because it is running on the RE engine, as it's called. If you guys played Resident Evil 7, you'll know the kind of graphical quality and detail they can get into, which I think is a good idea. It's taking the controls and mechanics, it's taking the controls and gameplay scheme from the 4, 5, 6 games, but they're putting it in sort of the 7 engine, so it looks just as good as it will play. That comes out January 25th, so I really can't wait for that, personally. And Kingdom Hearts comes out a few days later, so I'm going to be fucking busy in January, you can guarantee that. Speaking of busy, though, Telltale. We talk about Telltale a lot. We've said how they do have a lot of franchises under the belt and they make a lot of games, and for some reason, they try and do a lot too much at a time, so a lot of things take forever to come out. Well, they're going to add another thing to their work list, which is Stranger Things, of all things. Strangely. They're getting the rights from Netflix to make a Stranger Things Telltale game, so I don't... That's just something they're going to make, or they're working on at least. How it's going to play in terms of like the show itself, no idea. It could be its entirely own story, like Walking Dead, where it lives in the world of the comics but tells its own story. It could be something that runs parallel with the show. No idea. It's entirely just like, at this point, it's literally just a case of they've said, yeah, we'll work on this thing. But from this story, I found something interesting, which may be a bit older news now. I'll warn you now. but it just surprised me, and that's the fact that Minecraft Story Mode, which is another game Telltale worked on, is going to be on Netflix. You're going to get to play on Netflix somehow. I was quite surprised by this, personally. Allegedly, there have been other interactive experiences on Netflix geared towards like kids and stuff. So, is this going to work the same way? I personally have no idea. Just have to see. When it's coming out, I have no idea. How it's going to play, again, no idea. This is, as I say, probably all the news. It's just it's one that really surprised me in terms of they're going to put a game on Netflix. So, yeah. Oh well, this is the world we live in. Speaking of the world we live in, at some point, I don't know when we're going to get it, but at some point, the Final Fantasy VII Remake is happening. Although Square Enix have been very busy at hand with Kingdom Hearts 3, which, so they should, keep at it. I want that game to be perfect. They are still working on Final Fantasy VII Remake. They've said that it is quite far into development. It's not like still early days. It's getting there. It's just obviously not at the minute. There's still nothing to show, which is why, again, people were disappointed at E3 because they didn't show anything of it at the Square Enix panel. So it's just at a stage where they can't really. So they'd rather wait and show you something that looks good and plays well, as opposed to just here's something early on that looks pretty decent and plays all right. You know what I mean? So otherwise, it's not going to sell you on it. The guy who's, I think it's the same director from Kingdom Hearts, Tetsuya Nomura, he said they've given 100% into Kingdom Hearts and 100% into Final Fantasy. It's just, obviously at the minute, one actually has a release date and it's sort of in the limelight in terms of the releases. And FF7, I imagine as soon as Kingdom Hearts comes out, they'll obviously keep up to date with it to like update any bugs and fixes and things. But then they're going to go like, Final Fantasy 7, that's coming out soon. We hope. Still episodic as far as I'm aware, so we'll see how that plans out as well. I can, as much as the game I've played, I've not finished the entire thing. I can see how they can make it episodic. It's just a case of where are they going to cut off in terms of the story and episodes and stuff, and how much are they going to cost as well. Like, how much is it going to be like a season pass thing? So you just pay once, and every time that it comes out, you're going to get the next installment, like a Telltale thing, or you can just buy them individually, and that's how it's going to be, individual episodes. I've no idea. No one has any idea, but we can only hope for the best. We'll just have to hold our breath now. Well, not hold our breath, but just like hold on to your butts and wait. Waiting. So there is again, waiting. We have to wait for things all the time. But we may not have to wait for the next story, which is DMC5. A big surprise for a lot of DMC fans out there from E3 was that DMC5 is a thing. It is being made. And what's even more surprising is, according to Capcom, they have plans to release it before the end of the fiscal year, which comes at March 2019. So basically, before the end of March next year is when they plan to have it out. So if you're a big DMC fan, you've only got to wait another, I don't know, off the top of my head, 6 months. I'm not the best at calendar maths. Yeah, one of those. So, as I say, I'm not a fan. I plan to play number 4. That's something I'm gonna do soon. Is play number 4, and hopefully I'll like it, and then hopefully I'll be excited for DMC5. If not, I'm just happy for the fans out there who finally get this next installment they've been waiting for. So we'll see. We have some not so great news for Sony, at least. You know, it's and depending on how you guys look at it, it might not be great either. As you guys know, recently Fortnite came out on Nintendo Switch. They announced it at the Direct conference at E3. It was there. It was basically ready to go as soon as they announced it. You can pretty much play it now. You're like, if you have an account of Fortnite, not like with Nintendo or with Sony, but with Fortnite themselves, and you want to log in on Nintendo Switch, but you've already connected to your Sony account, you're gonna have a bad time because they're kind of blocking that right now. If you connect your Fortnite account to the PS4 to play there, and you want to log into another system to play it on there, you can't. So essentially what they're doing is blocking other people from playing it, and because of like the big sort of online hate attacks towards Sony to be like, fix this shit, their stock's starting to go down a little bit. So they're not in the most comfortable places right now. we'll just have to see how that goes. Hopefully they'll fix it, because cross-platform gaming has been a problem for Sony for a while. They sort of... Rocket League came out and is very popular, but they were like, you can play it on PS4, you can play it on Xbox One, you can't play it together, even though it's a multi-platform game. And it seems like they're trying to do the same with Fortnite, or at least in terms of like your accounts and stuff, so you can't transfer your things. Say you've spent God knows how many hours in Fortnite, and why would you personally? On PlayStation 4, you can't then take that into your Nintendo Switch console and play that way. So you may have to start again, or just don't play it on Switch. As I say, hopefully they'll fix it. I'm not a fan of Fortnite or the Battle Royale games, neither is Liam. So we don't really have a dog in this fight. But in terms of hoping people get what they want out of this, then yeah, I can't really deny that. Yeah, I hope people actually finally get what they want, because this just generally kind of sound like a bad business thing, you know. Surely Sony know that while people do tend to have one big home console, be it this PS4 or the Xbox One, a lot of people do also have a Switch now as well, because it's not that dear and it is quite fun depending if you can buy the games or not. So hopefully they'll fix it. We'll just have to wait and see. I imagine if the Twitter storm doesn't die down, then yeah, they will have to sort of implement some kind of fix. But we'll just have to wait and see on that, guys. Another piece of not so great news is the fact that apparently we're all insane, or at least we all have a mental condition. According to the World Health Organization, they've said that gaming disorder is now a thing. Yeah, we all have a mental disability called gaming disorder. It's actually on the website right now. I have it up in front of me to clarify how they describe it. So, what is gaming disorder? Quote, gaming disorder is defined in the 11th draft revision of the International Classification of Disease as a pattern of gaming behaviour, digital gaming or video gaming, characterised by impaired control over gaming, increasing priority given to gaming over other activities to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other interests and daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. So that's how they've classified it. That's what they're going forward with. And a lot of people aren't so happy about this, myself included, obviously, because it's gaming is a hobby at the end of the day. I mean, some people out there are lucky enough to make it their life and have them get paid for it. I want to be there at some point one day, but it's never something that I'm like, I have to do this or else I'll die, personally, again. So clearly unless I'm just the exception to this rule, I don't think there's anything here. And a lot of people agree. The ESA speaking out against it, as well as 9 other companies to do with gaming and stuff. They formed a coalition and signed a statement hoping, or at least, pleading, putting towards the World Health Organization that there is no evidence for this result of theirs, so they need to back it up and get rid of it, because at the end of the day, you're making us all sound like gamers as people. For the most part, a lot of people don't. Some of the older generation tend to have problems with games for some reason. They all think too violent, or these kind of stereotypes around gaming. So to say now that gaming is also a bit of a mental condition, that's not going to help our case anymore at all. So, fix your shit, basically. To put it the most bluntly way possible, fix your shit. Yeah. Last couple bits of news now. This one's very recent. In fact, it was only announced, I believe, today or yesterday. Sony are now releasing the PS4 Hits line of games. It's, if you remember back in like the PS2 days, you had the classics, where like the silver cases kind of games. They weren't the best. The cover art was shortened down, and they came like a grey box and a grey silvery outline thing. Didn't look the nicest, but it's still a game at the end of the day. They're going back to that sort of mentality for PS4 with the PS4 Hits. In the US, at least, they're going to start coming out on June 28th, and they're all going to be $20 at least. It's going to have a big red banner at the top. The box itself will be red, and it's, for the most part, the older like exclusives, but there are some games in there that are cross-platform, like the Battlefields. The Doom is there too. You've also got the Metal Gear Solid 5 Definitive Edition as well. So that's something they're rolling out. It is planning to come to other regions as well, but I believe Europe and stuff are going to get it in July as opposed to June. US are getting it first. But all these games at the end of the day are still going to be 20 quid. $20, £20, €20, however you put it. That's what they're going with, which is quite good to be honest. Some of them at least. Some of the games on the list I haven't played and I kind of want to. So since there is such I'd say a really good price depending on how much content you're getting out of them, I may pick them up. It's just that box. It doesn't look very nice, and especially because everything's blue. If you have a whole like rack of PS4 games and it's all nice and blue and uniform, to have this one random red thing in there, it's not going to look the nicest. So if anything, they haven't really said whether these games are going to be physical only or like on the store and stuff. These games are going to be 20 quid as well. If they're on the store, £20 like permanently, no sales or nothing, I may just get them like download wise because I don't want that red dot in my PS4 game rack. It looks like a big fat spot, to be perfectly honest. Right, the next piece of news is about Fallout. If you're a big Fallout fan, which as I say I am not, but Liam is, and he's gonna be interested in this. Fallout 76 being the next game from Bethesda in terms of the Fallout franchise, which comes out later this year, sometime in November, October, I believe. That's coming out, and there is going to be a beta for the game, so people can play it a bit earlier to sort of test the waters, see if they like where they've gone with the franchise. But unless you're an Xbox owner, you ain't getting that beta any sooner because the Xbox are going to get the beta before PlayStation. They must have worked out some kind of deal with Microsoft. In fact, Todd Howard was at Microsoft conference before Bethesda conference to show off a bit of Fallout 4 76. So they must have worked out some kind of deal where when the beta comes out, Xbox owners will get it before PlayStation. PlayStation are going to get it. It's just Xbox will get it first. That's all. It's like when they used to do maps for Destiny on PS4 before the Xbox One. I completely muddled up my consoles there. Yeah, so that's how it's going to work. It's like that, but the other way around. Which for some people, like I imagine like Liam, he's not going to be very happy about that. But at the end of the day, that's how business goes. They clearly worked out some kind of deal with Microsoft to have Fallout 76 not come out like full game release, but have a bit more of a chance to try it out before PlayStation owners. So, yeah, if that bothers you so much, go out and buy an Xbox. But if not, then just wait a bit longer. My guess, I'd probably say it might be like 3 to 4 weeks difference between them. I can't say with any certainty, but that's just my guess. That's like a maximum though. I wouldn't put him past a month of having it earlier on Xbox. I think that's a bad move on their behalf, but you know, I could be wrong. We'll see. And the last piece of, well, it's not really news to be perfectly honest. It's just more of a thing I wanted to end the podcast on. It's a really nice sort of uplifting thing to do with games. I feel like a lot of people like. With the rise of like Fortnite and PUBG and all these Battle Royale online only games and kind of things, and Black Ops 4 being online only, people are kind of worried that the single player experience is dying. Like, before God of War came out, it was at its highest. Then God of War came out and I was like, this is fucking awesome. But it's sort of like, it's only like one compared to all the other games coming out that are all online. But we aren't the only ones who share this kind of opinion. Like, the developers believe single-player games are still going to be very much a very popular thing. They may not, at the minute, the multiplayer may have the hype right now, but single players aren't going anywhere because single players matter. You know, single player games do matter, and especially because I hate online personally. But the Red Dead Redemption 2 publisher and Take-Two Entertainment CEO Strauss Zelnick, I think I'm pronouncing that right, he's actually made a quote about single player games, and he says, quote, "Single player, in my opinion, is not dead. Not even close. Companies that feel like they'll just avoid the hard work of building a story and characters and go right to where the money is in multiplayer. I don't think that's going to work. I'd be surprised." And I'd be surprised too, because as we say, obviously in the last year or so, a lot of controversies come out with like loot box systems and all this kind of online content and stuff. And now at the minute, as I say, the big boom of Fortnite and PUBG and all these Battle Royale style games, and the next Black Ops, the next Call of Duty game is going to have no single player, it's online only. People, especially myself, were kind of a bit tentative, like, is this where games are going? You know, are they just sort of going where the money is and ignoring people who don't want to play online or don't want to go into a shitty 1v100 match and fight for your life and die in the first 5 minutes? Because it's a bad game, guys. It's a bad game. It's a bad game. I don't like it. You know, we still like to play games, so as long as they keep making single player experiences that are good and have good characters and good stories, then, you know, we're gonna be fine. And the developers believe that too, so we don't have anything to worry about, really. You know, I think we'll be just fine. But that is it for this week, guys. I know it's a shorter one, as I say. It's just me here, but there's been a lot to cover, so I've made it last as much as I can. But yeah, that is all we got this week, guys. Thank you very much for listening and watching as well. You know, like, follow, all this good stuff. We'll see you guys next week. It should be on time next week, podcast wise, to be up on Wednesdays. And the game, you all just lost it again for the 11th time. So, thanks, guys. Bye bye.